those who don't know, Time Crisis is an arcade shooter where you have no control over the character's movement except for the aiming of the gun. The game was originally released on the arcades in 1995 and was later ported to the PlayStation console in 1997. Now, you'd think we'd be using the ordinary PlayStation Pad to play this, right? Well, we're going to be using what's called the gun.
Oh yeah, the gun. Now, the box could be in better condition, that's true, but the motherfucker that's sitting inside it is pristine in comparison to others. It's actually called the Namco G-Con 45, developed specifically for this game, also by Namco. Other games that would utilise it were Point Blank, Virtua Cop and House of the Dead on PlayStation. However, Namco's gun wasn't all that original.
The light guns were becoming ever more unpopular because the technology wasn't really there yet. Not to mention that these guns were very inaccurate, they'd break easily, and if they were wireless, they'd require a lot of batteries just to use them for a few hours.
Sega had a gun, but there were few games that it would work on, which was one of the reasons why few bothered to buy it. To many, it was just something that would take up more room on the game shelf. Nintendo also had a gun. Well, they had two actually. The NES had a pistol, while the SNES had a friggin' bazooka. The SNES version, known as the Super Scope, had the problem of battery life, and this required around 6 AA batteries to work. The gun was also around £90 in England, and the batteries would drain in around 8 hours of play.
But these aren't the only guns in video gaming. For example, the Pong consoles had their very own revolvers and handguns, and the Odyssey had a shotgun which you pump after each round fired. During the PlayStation era, many parents complained, and these guns really did see decline here, especially in the UK. Now, I can see why you would complain about it. I mean, this does mimic an actual handgun. Let's not forget that the NES period, when these light guns were popular, they only looked like phasers and laser guns. I'm not exactly saying you could hold up a store, especially with this wire hanging from it, but I can see why parents didn't like it. Now, this thing was originally £29.95 at all good stores, really, and before that it was at the arcades, so you couldn't take it home. I got this only recently for £15 on Amazon, including postage and packaging, and because it came with its original box, I consider that a bargain. So, are we going to get our money's worth? Well, let's find out with Time Crisis. Finally got it set up. Right, let's play some Time Crisis.
I'm surprised that the story is as in-depth as it is. The whole plot is about a hostage rescue situation where the monarchy of the fictional Circia have kidnapped the president's daughter. In exchange of her freedom, they want military secrets or Wild Dog, the antagonist, will have her shot. You play as Richard Miller, who, for the most part, says little and just gasps. You needn't worry about getting your ass kicked by a lack of movement control, because he'll worry about that. As long as you take cover and shoot for him, you'll keep him alive for long enough.
Now, the control is pretty simple. Pulling the trigger shoots, and holding the button down takes you out of cover. When you need to reload, you let go of the button, you go back into cover, and you automatically reload.
You have 6 shots per clip, and once they're gone you have to go back into cover. You can't reload while you're out of cover, otherwise you'll end up being killed dead. Your objective is simple. Get to the end of each level by clearing each screen of enemies. They all have the exact same pattern, meaning that you'll rely on trial and error in order to get further. Enemies are armed with guns to start with, but later have shields, claws and rocket launchers. As far as enemies go, they don't have that many models. They're really just in blue or orange uniforms and sometimes have different phrases or weapons. Not that it matters, and again I'll get round to why it doesn't later. You also have several hits called lives in the same fashion as Croc 2. Being hit is inevitable, but it doesn't always lead to losing a life. Lose all your lives and you have to start back at a certain point. you get 7 continues total. To get more lives, you need to get 40 hits in a row without missing, and as far as I know, there's no maximum amount. To prevent being hit, be sure to use cover as much as possible and take out enemies' incoming projectiles like grenades or rockets. Not only that, but the environment wants you dead too, so be sure to watch out when the game screams DANGER at you. To avoid the environmental hazards, simply go back into cover and wait for whatever it was to move out of the way. At the end of each stage, you're often scored on how well you did. To get the best scores, you need to take as few hits as possible while killing enemies without missing so much. As a reward, you get to see another piece of the compelling cutscenes which progress the story that little bit more. Each level has a time limit and you've only just got under a minute for the most part to complete the screen. As you beat each screen you get more added time to the clock, and scoring headshots also grants a few more seconds. When the timer reaches 0, you fail the stage and you need to use up one of your continues.
Now, I would have this game completed if not for the fact that I have a later television. You don't honestly know what it's like to have to recalibrate the gun on the TV screen every time you lose a continue. So that's why I called in expert gunner Undertaker. So okay, so UT, show 'em how it's done. Thanks very much. Man, you really are the G-Cone wizard. Well anyway, thanks for coming onto the show.
Time Crisis really doesn't have all that much gameplay, especially because the more you play it, the more repetitive it will become. There's no choices to make or no crossroads to come across. So long as you learn where the enemies are and know the appropriate time to take cover, there really is no need to worry. The one problem I think a lot of us have with this game is its lifespan. You can complete the game in just under an hour if you have a perfect run, and you could probably get the game done in 2 with 35% accuracy. However, this is a port from an arcade machine, and there's no way to save your progress on those. Oddly enough, there is a save and load feature on this, but why waste memory card space on something you have to complete in one sitting? However, there is a special mode which adds an extra hour of gameplay, so technically you are getting up to 4 hours of play. And even when you complete it, it's still fun afterwards. If I have one comment to make before I end this review, it's that it has a spectacular ending. The graphics aren't what you'd call astounding, but again, for an arcade game in 1994, these are great. Plus at home it actually feels like a worthy arcade game and has classic written all over it. The sounds too are fantastic, particularly the gunshots. While the voice acting is a bit hammy, it's what I'd expect from the typical 90s action flick. A great intro with some good music throughout. With Time Crisis you can't go wrong.
Unfortunately, that's all there is for me today, but until the next time, I'm the Greasy Game, your #1 source for #2 games, and if you excuse me, I gotta find what Undertaker's doing in a game called Blood. Ta-ta for now.